welcome to the second part of my Yun Masterclass on resets for Yun. This is going to cover the crouching heavy kick reset. Now, what's going on here is that during Ganejin, if you do your crouching heavy kick, it becomes a hard knockdown. Now, in order to do this reset on some of the cast in an efficient manner, you need to use Kara crouching medium kick, or Kara crouching roundhouse. Now this is pretty difficult to do. It's forward medium punch, and then immediately down in heavy kick. If you fuck up the timing, you end up getting up kicks. Or if you negative edge, you can get short. So, when you're doing this reset, the reason why it's so good is because when you knock your opponent down, you can land in front, or you can land behind. So, that's important to note. Now, I'm going to turn the dummy settings to no guard because it's easier for me to showcase the options after the reset. Unfortunately, the options that are the dive kicks in which you're doing to make this ambiguous are not the same based on every character. There are two outliers where that is the twins and the Shotos, but everyone else has the same exact setup. You can dictate what side you want yourself to land on if there's a specific thing that you wish to do. Like if you want to reposition yourself to go towards the corner. This is something that is very useful when your back is to the corner. So if you were to get it here, super jump forward, medium kick, dive kick, you're pretty much guaranteed to cross up. So that allows you positioning back towards the corner, or if you want to go to the front and you want to guarantee that you're going to be going to the front, you can just jump forward and medium kick, dive kick. So yeah, if you want to have an ambiguous cross-up, that changes what depending on the character. Now, this setup is mostly done off of Daipon loop after a shoulder on a standing opponent. And the reason for this is because the damage scaling is going to be extremely high, and it also gives you the best screen position consistency for getting your ambiguous cross-ups. So ideally, you want to be doing 2 or 3 standing heavy punches or Daipons, which is part of the Daipon loop. That's another video. So if you don't know how to do Daipon loop, you can go learn that, but it's not 100% necessary to do this reset. If you just want to do the reset, you can do what I'm doing here. Crouch medium punch, stand heavy punch, crouch roundhouse. Or you can get it off of a situation off of a Senpo tension with crouching medium kick into crouching heavy kick, or you can immediately go, crouching medium punch, crouching heavy kick. And then even there, I got a successful cross up with a jump forward heavy kick, dive kick. Now, if you don't add the standing heavy punch, it's going to screw with the timing on your dive kicks, and it's going to have different results for when you cross up, when you don't cross up, and all that jazz. So, for this, we're going to be looking at the hard version, which is 3 heavy punches, and then we're also going to look at the 2 heavy punch version. So for the 3 heavy punch version, like I said, you need to do the Kara crouching medium kick, or crouching heavy kick, and the combo also needs to be done extremely slowly. Now, if you don't do it slowly, this is what it looks like. Sorry. Now, the faster you do it, the harder it is. Now, as you can see there, the sweep connected, but not off the combo. Because if you do it too fast, the character recovers fast enough from the heavy punch before you can actually get your sweep out. The sweep requires a very stupid timing for the Kara, so unless you are an execution god, I highly suggest only doing 2 heavy punches. And the reason for this is because if you do 3 heavy punches, Shotos, Urien, Dudley, Necro, 12, Q, and Hugo all need the Kara. Realistically, Shotos do. It is 100% possible to do it without it. I know Yakun, Yuki Spencer, and a couple other players don't do the Kara. But there are some players like Ushi, Sho, and Derun that use the Kara for the crouching heavy kick when they do this. The reason it's also easiest to do 3 is because after the 3rd, if you go for Daipon loop again, after the combo, so if you were to do sweep, cross up, you get 3 Daipons before you have to go for your shoulder into ender, or your forward fierce into ender, or whatever it is that you're going to do based on your screen position. So ideally, you can do this with 2, and it works on much more of the cast without needing a Kara. So if you don't Kara and you want 3 heavy punches, it works very easily against Oro, Remy, the twins, Chun-Li, Alex, Makoto, and Elena. They all have very wide bases for their character sprites, so their hitbox for their legs are a bit bigger. Characters like Urien, Dudley, Necro, Ibuki, 12, Q, and somehow Hugo all manage to have smaller hitboxes. If you were to do 2 of them, the only characters that need a Kara are Q, Urien, Necro, and Dudley. Where in those matchups, no, you don't necessarily want to be doing this anyway. And that's something I'll get into in the written guide. I don't really want to explain it here. Well, it is still possible. You would have to do 1 Daipon or 2 Daipons into Kara crouching heavy kick. So when you get this to work, if you want to do it on Shotos, you need to do it extremely slow. Now, when you do it, it's important that you get the full length of your canceling of your standing heavy punch into the full step, basically, of the Daipon for the Daipon loop. And this is important when doing it against Shotos in general, because it needs to have that timing if you want to do it all the way across the screen against Shotos. Now, so that's the timing that you need. You should be able to hear the buttons, but if you can't, you know, it's just the slowest possible timing for Daipon loop. Now, let's go over the options that you have. When you get your sweep, so I'm going to change this out. 1, 2, 3, activate. Okay. When you get your sweep, right? You can cross up. You can go right at the Daipon loop, and then you have, you know, a bunch of different options that you can get. So I only did 1 here. So I was able to get 5 Daipons after the fact with that. So the rule of thumb is if you get 3, you want to do 3. if you start with 2, then you want 4, and if you start with 1, you can do up to 5. Now, you can end up doing Kara for the sweep if you really want to, for the 2 hits, just to make sure that you're consistent with it, but it's not necessary if your timing's correct. So, when you get your timing, it's important to know, okay, how do I make this ambiguous? Or how do I force what side that I want to be on? So since I already covered how you can talk about, or how you can make it what you want to, what side you actually want to be on, I'm going to talk about the ambiguous aspect of it. Now, when you're doing this as an ambiguous cross-up, you can go high as well with a standing medium punch, or a standing heavy punch. And you can do whatever, combos or enders you really want off of this. As long as you know how to get your ender, or how to get the positioning on the screen that you actually want. So, here you have a couple options. You have the Nika KO ender, which is what I like to call it. It's a standing medium kick into jump, dive kick into crouching medium punch. So, it requires very good timing on your jumps and your dive kicks and all that stuff. You do have other options that are easier. No, your basic enders, whatever you want to do. This one doesn't give you as much meter in some cases, but you can opt for KO ender against certain characters, and you can opt for specific character enders against Urien and against Makoto and Elena in some cases, where you can get a lot more meter, closer to 50%. You also, when you're doing this, need to make sure that when you're going high-low, you don't forget that you can do Zembo Tension. So it's important to note that you can get Zembo Tension off of this. As you can see there, that gets me about 55% meter. Making sure that you know that you can go between high, low, and both of those are confirmable into Daipon Loop again, as well as getting your throws, or your Zembo Tensions, your command throws. That's how this is successful. And also, not really having an idea what side you're going to land on means that you have just as much chance to hit it as your opponent does to block it, because they have literally no idea, since there's no cue as to when you're jumping or how you're jumping in order to allow this to work. It's literally like a couple frames difference, and that's very hard to tell when someone's jumping. So, without further ado, let's talk about how to make this ambiguous against certain characters. Against Shotos, if you do it immediately, like immediately, it'll stay in front. And if you do it slightly delayed, like I just did there, it'll still stay in front. This is with heavy kick, dive kick. But with literally like 1 frame difference in timing, that hard kick goes right through their stand-up animation. So that makes all the difference in the world. Now, making sure that you know your screen positioning when you start also matters a lot when you're going for enders, because as you can see here, if I had started doing my crouching medium punches immediately, I would have got 55% meter, and I'd still have half the screen to work with to build meter. Or I could have gone in right afterward. You can get into the corner by changing the timing. So you can time things for meaties off of this, you can time things for cross-ups, you have all sorts of different options. So you have that ender, which is the basically ending with a shoulder into dash punch to light punch shoulder, which forces them to go to the other side. Or you have it's a lot easier to do in the corner. But it's still difficult to land. Ideally, this ender gets you the same sort of up kicks ender, and it gives you more meter, so it's what you should be going for. But for consistency, you don't really need So the important thing when doing this ender is to press the crouching medium punch before you even land, basically. And you also have to neutral jump. So with that, depending on your distancing and stuff, heavy kick, dive kick is going to be faster than medium kick. In the corner, sometimes heavy kick can put you under your opponent. So if you're not 100% certain on what you're going to end up getting, then don't bother going for it. So when you're doing this, that particular setup right there at that timing works on Shotos, 12, Makoto, Elena, Ibuki, Alex, Twins, Remy, Chun, Oro, and Hugo. So because we already know now that against Shotos, immediate jump forward, and then different timing on your heavy kick, dive kick is going to yield an ambiguous cross-up, which you can't even really, I mean, you can control it, but it's difficult. Well, your opponent can't really see what side you're going to land on in most cases. So now let's look at the other characters, and we can put these into two other groups, like I said, the non-twins and then the twins. So let's look at the twins first.
Are you ready? Go!
So if you were to do super jump forward and heavy kick, dive kick against this character, you'll land basically like I just did. Right? Now, if you want to be ambiguous, you super jump forward and very late like kick, dive kick. And later you do it, the more ambiguous it becomes. As you can see there, it just crossed up. So your opponent has no idea what side you're going to land on. Neither do you. And it also will connect if they don't move for a combo. So, if you want to make sure that you're guaranteed a bit more of a ambiguous mix-up as well, you can also change up when you're doing your jump forward, or super jump forward, medium kick, dive kick, which that almost always will cross up. And doing light kick, dive kick, or heavy or medium kick, dive kick will change your trajectory. But the light kick one is the most ambiguous, because if you're to do this with just normal jump forward, you're not going to end up with a cross-up situation most times. But this heavy kick, dive kick, two of them, as long as you catch them in the middle of their wake-up, just like Shoto's, you can have the ambiguous cross-up. So the cross-up timing for this character as well as the Shoto's is actually the same, which I didn't know until now. So I learned something new with all of you. So wonderful. But the light kick, dive kick one is the most ambiguous. Super jump light kick. Because if you try to jump too far and do an opposite direction dive kick, it doesn't work. It's literally a last second dive kick. But it is the most ambiguous to get this time. So, against the Twins, while it is the most ambiguous to do this setup, it isn't the most consistent way to cross up if you actually have the goal to cross up. If you don't want to know, and you're comfortable doing it on both sides just like that, then go for that one. Otherwise, going for the heavy kick one is probably going to be best. So the same thing will probably be true for the rest of the cast, but we'll just take a look at Makoto, just to be sure.
Prepare to strike now.
So there I'm doing the timing that I would have done to cross up. That's not crossing up. So against her, super jump forward and medium kick, dive kick is going to end up giving you the most ambiguous choice. So in the description below, I will have a list of all the characters in the most ambiguous way to cross up, or not even in the list below, but in the document that I'll be preparing and will be added to this video in a couple days. So again, this crouching heavy kick reset works in a lot of situations where even in neutral, you're just wanting to crouch your opponent. Oh. There's no way they could react to that there. Because I thought I was crossing up there. But either way, this is the crouching heavy kick reset. And one more time, no matter what, you need to Kara against Q, Urian, Necro, and Dudley. If you are not comfortable doing 3 Daipons into a Kara crouching heavy kick, which works on every character in the game, then you should stick to doing 2 and just not doing it on Urian, Q, Necro, and Dudley. But the rest of the cast, it's pretty easy. And luckily, as far as those characters go, the only 2 common ones are Urian and Dudley. Necro and Q, especially in the United States, are less common. But in those situations against Q and Necro, it's better off with you having them in the corner. Especially against Urian, having them cornered is great, but being mid-screen is just as good. And Dudley, you do want him cornered as well, so finding a way to corner carry is probably more efficient than getting these resets. But it still is possible. And on crouching characters, if you were to want to do this on a croucher for whatever reason, works off of 2, I believe, on every character in the game. And 3 without Kara on every character in the game. But I'll check that out and I'll leave it in the description or in the document or whatever. Let's just take a look at standing against Dudley real quick, and then we'll take a look at crouching against Dudley. So against Dudley, you can't start your combo crouching medium punch against a standing. So you have to start it with crouching medium kick. So you have to do there. It's not even close to connecting against him. But if you do the Kara, you are very much closer. So get used to the Kara. Is essentially my best, or my humble opinion. But let's take a look at him if he is crouching and see what happens.
Prepare to strike. Now.
So against crouchers, the entire game should work fine. And it's pretty effective. If you want to do resets, it's the fastest way to get a reset. Since your opponent, when you do your normal resets, has to be in the air. So when you get your reset on your opponent, you're close to about 50%. And when you do this reset, you get a shitload of damage, and you get the reset at about the exact same time. So, remember, against standing opponents, the Kara stuff that I talked about earlier matters, but against the entire cast, you should be able to crouching heavy kick reset off of pretty much anything. And just to be sure about that, one of the characters with the weirdest hitboxes when crouching is Ibuki and Kodo. So we'll take a look at Ibuki, and then I will look at Urien. Ibuki, really easily. Let's take a look at Necro, which this should be a joke as well, because his body is very fat on the ground. But not when it's
Prepare to strike. Now.
So against crouching
Are you ready?
Necro,
Go.
3 didn't work. 2 didn't work. So this is a good thing that I took a look at this.
Now.
So against Necro, it's not really worth it at all. But you can carry against him. So it's necessary on him no matter what. Dudley was not, Urien's guaranteed not. But I will test that just to be 100% sure.
Yeah, I got the picture. I got the picture. Yeah, I've been waiting for this. Are you ready? Go.
Yep, works fine. So, thank you for watching this, and the next one I'm going to be covering is going to be on the jump medium kick reset, and that will cover both the shoulder and the corner version that Sho uses. So, thank you for watching, and hopefully this helped.